We're just about to kick off in about 1 minute when Commissioner Breton arrives in the room. He's already in the building, so we're nearly ready to rock. If you just don't mind putting your phones on airplane mode or on silence, just so they don't interfere with the event. And also, if you don't have one of these, make sure you have one in case any of our guests speak languages that you don't understand. So you can pop it on. It's number 1 for English and it's number 2 for French. You can put the back on the music there if you like. But I guess the minute Commissioner Breton comes in, we're going to rock on and go live. It's a day for the bike, but also you can have an accident. So you can take off your mask if you like, because we're going to socially distance. Oui, comme vous voulez. Okay. Give me a wave. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the EU Mayors Dialogue, the event bringing mayors from all across the continent face to face with the EU Commissioner for the Internal Market, Thierry Breton. Thierry Breton, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you there. My name is Maeve McMahon, and I'm a journalist here in Brussels with Euronews, and I'm also delighted to be here today for this unique dialogue about how cities are really on the ground translating European Commission documents into reality when it comes to the green and the digital transformation. So welcome to all of you joining us online this afternoon, and a big hello to all the EU mayors from the Living-in-EU movement and the Intelligent Cities Challenge. Now, in just a couple of minutes, we'll be hearing from the European Commissioner, Thierry Breton. We'll also hear from the Slovenian presidency, from the Minister of Public Administration. But first, a couple of public announcements. This event will be held in the languages English and French, so all speakers are welcome to use those languages when intervening, and also you can watch this live stream in English and French on YouTube. I've been asked to ask all speakers to speak slowly when intervening so that our brilliant interpreters behind the scene can catch every single word you're saying. We also have Portuguese, Spanish and German available as well for speakers today. Now, the EU Mayors Dialogue will be split into 2 rounds. The first panel will focus more on the planning and implementation side of the green and digital transformation, how local economies are working, how the role of technology is playing out, and also local green deals. And then the second panel, that will zoom more into the potential of technology, data governance in cities, and also the use of digital twins for cities on their paths towards this digital transformation. And hello, of course, to everyone in the room today. You're a minority, but it is lovely to have you here. You're very, very welcome. Of course, we would have loved to have had much more people from all across the continent and all the mayors physically present, but of course, due to circumstances that we don't need to mention, that was not possible. But that does not mean this event will not be interactive. We would welcome questions from all those active participants on Zoom, so you're welcome a little bit later to participate. And anyone taking to social media today, you can use the hashtag EU Mayors Dialogue or Digital EU. So now, without further ado, Commissioner Breton, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to be able to spend the afternoon with you, part of the afternoon with you. It's pretty snowy here in Brussels today, but here we are, and we are very happy to be together everywhere in Europe. So welcome to everyone, and I'm eager to listen to what you will have to say, of course, on this extremely important agenda. So I would like to start with a few remarks, but I don't want to be too long. The first one, of course, is to say that we thought it was extremely important to have this dialogue with you, the mayors of our continent, because, of course, we are in a very particular situation and period these days, and these years, I should say. Not only, of course, we have to cope with the pandemic, and we still have to. Unfortunately, you know this extremely well. It's not over. We need to respect the conditions that we believe are appropriate for our fellow citizens, for you fellow citizens. We need to make sure that in each of your cities, you get enough vaccines for everyone. It was my job, and I know that you get enough vaccine. But now we need to make sure that in your cities, your fellow citizens will go to get vaccinated. And we know that it's not the case still everywhere. Even if we are the first continent in terms of vaccination, with 76% of the population being vaccinated, which is much more than everywhere else on the planet, but it's not enough yet. and we know that we still need to have everyone who is eligible to go there, and also now everyone who is eligible to get the third dose, so-called booster, because it's important and because this is the way we are fighting the pandemic. Of course, we have a new variant, but by the way, we will have other variants. So we will have other variants because, again, until we will have the virus on the planet and we will have clusters, we will have variants. The good news is that the vaccine is working extremely well. The good news is that if we need to adapt the vaccines, mRNA technologies allow us to do this within less than 3 months. The good news is that we have the capacity to produce it in Europe. We are producing 400 million doses per month. Of course, maybe now we have this a new variant. We have a few cases now in Europe. We will see in the next 3 weeks the dangerosity of this one. Nobody knows, by the way, if it is worse or quote unquote not so worse or better than the other one, the Delta one. We don't know yet. Nobody knows. Sequencing is on its way, but we will know in 3 weeks. And again, if we need a new vaccine, in less than 3 months we will have it, including for everyone. So no reason to panic, but reasons to continue. We have one pandemic. It's not the Omicron, it is the Delta. And this one we need to fight. And for this one, we need to get vaccinated as much as we can. And I know that you're playing an extremely important role here, and I thank you very much, including to maintain social distancing and to take the right decision, which are, of course, painful for our fellow citizens, and not that, but thank you for this. This is extremely important for all of us. Of course, while saying this, we have also to discuss of all the extremely important strategies that we've put in place at the level of the EU and of our continent. And of course, I'm speaking of the Green Deal, I'm speaking of the digital transition, I'm speaking of everything we are doing to be a little bit more, not a little bit, to be really more resilient within the continent and within all our supply chains. And of course, you are, this is why I really wanted to engage together with you, because you are key players here. You are key players in 2 dimensions. Not only, of course, you are extremely important because you play a big role in, let's say, transforming our continent towards this dual transition, but also you are in the front line because so many people are depending on what you do in your cities, and especially in this dual transition. So that's really why I'm eager to listen to you, your ideas, your problems, and of course, together with my team, I have a lot of colleagues here from my team, from DG Connect, from DG Grow. We will be here to answer to you, and also to take in your account, to take into account everything you will have to tell us. When we speak about Green Deal, when we speak about smart cities, when we speak about zero CO2 emission transportations, when we speak about electric cars, when we speak about all these things, I mean, you are in the front line. You have so many things to tell us. And of course, we are also here to make sure that we will be able to have the right tools, including to help to finance it. And by the way, Next-Generation-EU is the first one. That's massive. I'm happy, by the way, to see that in many member states already have reserved part of this investment, because it's an investment that we are making collectively at the EU level. Never forget that we borrow this and that our children will have to reimburse it. So we better do the right things. And it starts, of course, in the cities where you are. So we don't forget that. I don't want to speak of everything you do here with the Digital Twins Duet in Flanders, with the 15 minutes city models in Barcelona, Paris, Milan, or Amsterdam, with a mission for 100 climate neutral and smart cities. With everything you do, all the initiatives, of course, are extremely important to us. We follow this, and do not hesitate to share all your experience, your initiative also, together with us. It is a time, including, of course, I spoke about resources, money, but we have to speak also about skills. It will be my last point. In order to accompany this extremely important transition, we need to have the women and the men who will be able to carry it, and we know that it's pretty difficult to have the right skills today. It will be a challenge, but we are here also together with my colleague Nicolas Schmidt to help you to do this in this journey. So this is really what I wanted to tell you just to start this discussion. It is a discussion, exactly. It is an exchange, and I'm eager to participate to it. Again, thank you very much, and that's really, really thank you very much for everything you have done since 2 years. I mean, you have been frontline. Nobody could imagine what we are going through, and nobody could imagine what you did, because you had to do it. This is why I love so much, I should say, to engage with mayors, because at the political level, you are the one. You are the one. So we will never thank you enough for this. As I said, it's not over, but we stand together with you on this fight, and we will stand together with you also on the transition, which is ongoing now. Thank you.
Thank you so much there, Commissioner Thierry Breton, with those opening remarks. It is clear that the pandemic is very much on your mind and on your workload, so thank you so much for being with us today for this special dialogue. And as the Commissioner said there, this is a dialogue, and he is all ears, so he will be very much with us for the whole afternoon to listen to the ideas of the mayors and, of course, to engage in dialogue and offer his ideas. But for now, as I mentioned earlier, we will be bringing in the Slovenian presidency, so I'd like now to say hello to the Slovenian Minister of Public Administration, Boštjan Koritnik, for his remarks for us today.
Dear Commissioner Breton, dear EU majors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to address you today. I think holding this hybrid event is a great reflection of the COVID period we are living in, and an innovative approach of how to be able to include broader public. It is a proof of how alive and necessary the digital transformation is. In Slovenia, we firmly believe that digitalization perfectly goes hand in hand with green transition and has, at the same time, an enormous potential to improve citizens' lives. Therefore, the Slovenian EU presidency has put digital transformation, digital technologies, and cybersecurity as its priorities. I'm very happy to say that at the Council, we have already achieved great progress on several legislative acts that will enable this much needed green and digital transformation, and will strengthen EU autonomy in these fields. With the widespread use of digital technologies, citizen communities can become smart. I'm aware that the advancement of a smart society requires the widest possible stakeholder integration at local, regional, national, also EU level, as well as broad consensus and the promotion of development. This is why the initiative like Living-in.EU and the ICC Intelligent Cities Challenge are so important. I have personally signed the Living-in.EU declaration this year as a representative of one of the first 3 member states that have done so. And I'm very proud that Slovenian cities are active in both initiatives. Local environments are, in my opinion, most suitable for establishing partnerships between stakeholders, for developing competences and investing in digital infrastructure. The role of the state is to provide a framework for faster development, to set standards, and also guidelines. As regards Slovenia, our government encourages municipalities, also with financial incentives, to unify solutions in terms of opening data and interoperability. They have been including digitalization into their operations and infrastructure management and communication with citizens for some time now. Examples of good practices are found everywhere. Testing, introduction of smart city concepts and individual solutions began in major cities. The Open Data Hub, for example, integrates businesses, state and innovation in producing new innovative products. However, no solution helps if the citizens are not ready to accept it. All stakeholders, including end users, need to be involved in digitization processes. And the COVID-19 pandemic showed us that we need to do more. Minimal interoperability standards and unified solutions in municipalities have to be implemented as broadly as possible. The Open and Agile Smart Cities Network is a great example of how to set minimal interoperable standards. Sustainable cities are also the only solution for containing and reducing the alarming environmental and socio-economic impacts that urbanization will have on our planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm deeply convinced that cities and communities are becoming launch pads for the digital transformation of the entire society. Today, you'll have an opportunity to discuss some very important topics on this. I wish you a fruitful and an interesting discussion. Thank you.
And thank you very much there, Minister Kornick. Putting the point out there, of course, that all stakeholders need to be involved in this transition. I think that's a point that the majority of our mayors would repeat. Now, in just a minute, we'll be meeting them. But first, let's take a look at this video about the Intelligent Cities Challenge initiative. So now we can meet our mayors, and I'm very happy to be joined now here in Brussels on stage by Mr. Grigoris Konstantelos. He is the mayor of, you've been teaching me how to pronounce this, Fari Fula Fuliameni. Can you help me out there?
It was close.
Okay.
It was Fari Vula Fuliameni. With V, not with F.
Okay.
V.
Which is, of course, just a beautiful spot, just a short drive from Athens.
Yes, we are very lucky living in a very nice city in the Athenian suburbs with a very nice coastline, very nice green hills.
On this rather wintry day in Brussels, we're all dreaming of visiting there.
With good weather also.
Beautiful weather.
21 degrees now.
Okay.
And not snowing.
A little bit chillier in Brussels today, right? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's lovely to see you here. Welcome to Brussels. And to your left, we can also say hello to Mr. Yanko Keresov. He's the Deputy Mayor of Sofia.
Thank you for having us. It's really a pleasure to be here and to share our plans, our goals, our ambitions together, and to participate in the dialogue from the city's perspective.
We're very curious to hear what your city's up to. Thank you so much for being here. And joining us online today, couldn't make it unfortunately due to COVID, is Laia Bonnet, the Deputy Mayor of Barcelona. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Great to see you there. We're also joined by
Yes.
Mr. Jacob Bunsgaard. He is the Mayor of Aarhus.
Nice to be here.
Lovely to see you. And also François Barron, the Mayor of Troyes, and also the former President of the Federation of French Mayors. Good afternoon to you. Hello.
Bonjour, François.
Hello, Francois.
And we were meant to be joined, in fact, by Peter Kurz, the Mayor of Mannheim, but due to an emergency meeting on COVID, he couldn't join us, but he sends his best regards. So let's start. We'll head back to Athens, to our Mayor, and ask you really for the first question, because I understand that you already are implementing a local Green Deal there. How's it going down? Can you already see the positive impact on business and also on citizens?
Yes, we did. First of all, I would like to express our gratitude for this very interesting invitation for this dialogue, Commissioner Breton. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, we're trying to do. You were not too far. The question is why you were not in our city. But
I was not invited.
you were in.
I bet I will come back.
You will come back.
We all
yes,
want an invitation, right? Yeah.
Okay, the invitation is open for,
Thanks a lot.
for all of you. I think it's a nice city, well situated, and we're trying to take good care of it.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for this opportunity. Yes, we think we are managing the city since the beginning of 2015, more or less, and we set a certain goal to move towards a more efficient, more human, and more green and smart and efficient city. And in order to do this, you need a plan. We made a plan, a very thorough plan by, first of all, identifying the needs and the necessity of the city and the people, the users of the city, which are the inhabitants and the people that are visiting the city. And we start implementing it according to the sustainability theory, the triple bottom line theory, that the humans, the environment, and the economy should be collocated and coexist in order to have pure and successful sustainability. So we did it. We are on the phase of more than 65% of our actions and policies are already in place in energy saving, in waste management, in energy production, in sustainable mobility and micromobility. In the whole spectrum of it, we have already seen results. We have reduced our energy consumptions by more than 35% so far, and we have set very ambitious targets for the removing from landfilling of waste, already 40%, aiming for a 90% by the end of 2023. So we set targets, we try to secure the funds, and the most basic thing, we're trying to mobilize the peers. Because if the citizens are not engaged on that, you will never, the best plan will be there, but nobody will be there to implement it. I'm coming from the world of aviation. I'm a professional pilot. And what we say in aviation and in accident investigation, after an accident happens, is the crew or the industry did very few, very late. So if we convert this to our discussion concerning climate and environment, I hope that we will do a lot of things and on a quick pace. This is the big bet.
Okay. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your plan. We'll come back to you a little bit later. But now we can head over to François Barron, who's representing as well a little bit the voice of all the mayors over in France due to his previous position. Can you tell us a little bit about this idea of the 15-minute city that Paris has been experimenting with? And it's, of course, putting people at the center stage of policies.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And if you allow, I would like to greet all of the guests and, of course, the chair of this meeting, Thierry Breton, and he obviously is a remarkable commissioner with a very brilliant career. And this is an excellent initiative, and this is very relevant in terms of the role of the cities and to work together with the union to improve our day-to-day lives in a sustainable way. And that's part of sustainable development and to obviously, this is to protect future generations. So we share all of these goals and objectives. Well, we have an organization through municipalities. Half of the people in France live in municipalities of less than 10,000, and there are 37% that live in municipalities that are less than 2,500 in population. So 70% of public investments in our countries are supported by the French state. And 60% of public investment to go through municipalities. So when we talk about the ideas such as the 15-minute city in Paris, it's an issue of proximity. So basically, it's about public services, the capacity to use services that are low carbon. Everything needs to be within a 15-minute perimeter. And so there's a pact that we have with the 10 major cities, Paris, Lyon, Marseille, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Nantes. So there are 10 cities that have taken up this policy, which is a fast-track policy. We're developing public services. It's going to be more difficult to get the rest of France on board, but the trend is underway and is organized. And my city is about 200,000 in population. We've created a strategy around three major thrusts. Digital development is one of them. And this covers the rationalization of mobility, public transport. We will have self-driving cars that will run within the city. We're planning to do that within the next 10 years, and this will allow us to respond to the 15-minute city initiative. Now, sustainable development. Sustainable development is a complete package, but there are various manifestations of that. The artificialization of the soil, the use of space. We need to protect our spaces. And then, of course, we need to look at the temperature issue. Sometimes we have temperatures up to 40 degrees, but we also have very cold winters. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at playgrounds. We're also looking at water. That's also part of the 15-minute city initiative. We're in the 20 years, so we want to have 10 to 15 meter water sources so that we can have catch zones for and also to provide more drinking water, and we want to manage household waste better, and then of course health. the lack of doctors is a French problem, but it seems to be a global problem as well. And so we want to have a larger number of doctors. We want to use digitalization and remote medicine to support this. Health at the local service, at the local area, and also protected cities for future generations, water, industrial areas, and public transportation. So things will happen more quickly for larger cities, less rapidly for smaller cities, but this will allow us to provide public services in this way.
Thank you so much for that. You certainly have a long to-do list there ahead of you. Just briefly, Commissioner, how soon will we be driving, or will we be sitting in driverless cars? I feel like a city like Brussels would certainly be safer if we have such things.
No, we will definitely we love it, and I should say today, especially in Brussels, but not only. No, but I would just like to jump in of what you said, and both of you know, and also François Barouin, who has a lot of experience because, of course, as he said, he was the mayor of the 32,000 cities and the head of the 32,000 cities in France, so more than Europe. So he has a pretty deep experience, and it's true that when we are listening to you, I mean, you have so many challenges. That's unbelievable, but of course. It is your daily task. You are, as mayor here, to deal with challenges. And so you liked the past, you will love the future. I know that you love the challenges. But when I see everything that you said, I mean, transforming the city, health, proximity, water supply, of course, tourism will change a lot, of course, also. Everything with smart cities, transportations. I mean that's absolutely paramount, and it's true that probably, not probably, certainly connected cars will play a role. When we see this, we start to see the first connected cars fully autonomous in 3 years. That's what they have in mind. I mean, big car manufacturers. So in 3 years, you will probably start to see the first cars, self-driving car, or car without any drivers. It's not exactly the same thing. Mr. Pilot, it's like a plane without pilot, or a plane with a plane with a pilot not doing anything, or a plane without pilot, or a plane with only one single pilot. That's maybe come. That's probably true, and then it will be the dog only. But anyway, so that's a big challenge, and of course, this transformation is a story of one generation. This is why our goal is 2050. This is the next 30 years. So it is a one generation journey, but we need to start now. We need to start now because we have the money. We have the money. I mean, we have the money. Never enough. But at least we have plans. We have already put also the money available. We still are and I speak also in front of François Barouin, who has been an excellent Minister of Finance. We are still today zero interest rates. As we say in French, pourvu que ça dure. So
As long as it lasts.
But it is what it is now. So this is why no time to lose, just rush.
No time to lose. And one woman who has no time to lose, who's been waiting patiently over in Barcelona, is Laia Bonnet. Very busy lady too. So thank you so much for your patience, and we're really curious to hear from you now, Laia, about how you turned the pandemic and the crisis into an opportunity and reinvented the city, essentially. Tell us more.
Thank you and good afternoon. And thanks also to Commissioner Breton for convening this meeting. I'm here not only on behalf of the city of Barcelona, but also of Eurocities, the larger European cities network. So I don't have much time. I will try to be very brief, but also very clear. In Barcelona and across Europe, reinventing ourselves means building more social, greener, and digital cities. This involves expanding public space for all citizens, transitioning towards a greener mobility model with public transport at the center, promoting local retail and building a more resilient economic model, addressing the inequalities that increased during the pandemic, and also regulating the impacts of the platform economy from housing to shared mobility. Digitalization, of course, is at the heart of it. We all know that the digital transformation is a source of great opportunities, but if it only benefits those who are already better off, we will be getting it all wrong. Reinventing the city means, above all, building a city that works for everyone. This is why we are supporting local retail so that they can go online as well. We are putting in place comprehensive digital inclusion policies, and we are building a digital twin that will help us design and implement more effective policies to cut down carbon emissions. And this is just to name a few examples. In short, we understand that business as usual is not an option, that innovation will not work if it doesn't work for everyone in the city and does not help us decarbonize our economy. But we also know that we cannot do it alone. We need resources, of course, but we also need political support. The Commission is still somehow an ethical authority when it comes to policy making. And so it is important that we cities who are on the front lines of transformation are endorsed by the Commission when we implement brave policies that get us closer to our common objectives. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Did you want to say something really briefly?
No, I think thank you very much for your statement, and also thank you. And I don't want to say thank you to each of you, but I really admire you, everyone, for what you do. Again, the mission, I don't say the job, but the mission of being a mayor is probably what is the most difficult, but also probably the most demanding and the most important thing in politics. So I'm very serious. So thank you. And you're absolutely right. Need resources, need the right policy. So we are here with my team, and this is really why I wanted to engage directly myself with each of you. Because of course we are policymakers, and everything you see that we could help, please let me know now. Because we are in the process of changing rules, adapting what we have in hands to make sure that we will ease your task. So that's really why I wanted to engage. Of course, my cabinet, my staff are here, you are in contact. But I really wanted to deliver this message to you personally. We are here to help, and we are in an approach which is absolutely not top-down, it is bottom-up. So please let us know what will be helpful to you, and especially in the policy that could help you in this transition.
Brilliant. Thanks, Commissioner Breton. Now, in just a minute, we'll head to Aarhus to hear from Jacob Bunsgaard. But first, you've been here as well, waiting patiently to speak. So now the floor is yours. And I wanted to specifically ask you about your city becoming a finalist in the European Green Capital Competition. So how do you plan to build now on this momentum?
Thank you. It has been really great to be recognized for the efforts that we're doing into making Sofia more and more green and having a good example for the rest of the cities in our country and also for Europe. And in Bulgaria, we have a proverb that says, appetite comes with the eating. So we were a finalist now, and now we are going to aim to win the contest in the coming years. So this is really becoming a center mission of all the work of the departments that we're doing. Our mission will entirely be focused on making Sofia a green city. And we already started putting efforts into it. In 2020, we adopted a strategy for digital and green transformation with the municipal council and with different stakeholders, and a 7-year implementation plan on how to make Sofia, how to build the infrastructure for creating Sofia really a smart city. We are guided by 3 major principles into doing that. stakeholder engagement, governance innovation, and regulatory opportunism. So in stakeholder engagement, we really try to engage as many citizens as possible into giving us feedback on the projects that we do and the services that we provide while we're developing them. We started working with in-depth interviews, creating surveys across everything that the municipality is doing now to make sure we have the feedback before we roll out a particular project or a particular service. We heavily engage with business. We've opened the doors of the city, creating somewhat of a VC program within the municipality that companies can come and provide their technology for innovation that can be applied to urban challenges. And we work heavily with academia to make sure that we get the best know-how transfer in technology. When it comes to the governance innovation, we started focusing particularly on strong project management profiles into hiring new team members in the municipality, and we are very much looking forward to data-driven decision-making. From every project that we're currently doing, we try to get as much data as possible, as much measuring as possible, so that we can apply algorithms looking forward and to implement all of this data into our digital twin that will be developed in the coming years as well. And regulatory opportunism is also in our focus because we had bad experience in the past with regulations coming from Europe, for example, and we were catching the last minute train on how to adapt to it. So me and my team are now looking in advance about what's to come. We are just finished a taxonomy analysis on over ESG standards on our investment projects that are yet to come, to make sure that we are prepared for the regulations to come and to make sure that we position Sofia and the projects that need external funding better for when the regulations actually come. Well, yesterday we had a meeting with the European Investment Bank and we presented the projects from the perspective of the taxonomy analysis and the ESG standards. So our main goal is to position Sofia properly and to use the new regulations for sustainable development as an opportunity, not to catch up when it's later on implemented.
And just briefly, when you engaged with people and business via those surveys that you mentioned, what were the big asks from the community?
The biggest ask that citizens usually have with municipality is ease of communication. So people get really lost between the administration tasks that they need to comply with when they work with municipality. So people always look, people nowadays are used to having services that are very easy, intuitive to them. So we completely are rethinking the user design and the user experience in all our administrative services. And when we're doing technological projects, we are very much gathering the feedback from the stakeholders involved about what outcomes do they want to, and do they understand properly how a particular technology will impact their daily life. For example, we had a pilot project making the first fully smart and self-sustainable kindergarten in Sofia. And people had a hard time understanding why do we implement sensors for air quality in the rooms instead of directly putting in filters. So we had a very hard time communicating with them, but we finally managed to that actually when it comes to a closed space, the CO2 levels is the bigger problem, not the fine dust particles. So just an air cleanser will not do the informative work that a sensor can do, because now teachers and children from very early age adopt a mindset about what air quality in their daily life should be about. And also we now have data and a better governance of the kindergarten itself. Now the headmaster knows which of the teachers are complying with the rules, because there are rules of how often you need to open a window or so, but it turned out many of them are not doing it. So these communications with the parents in this particular case was really important to understand why we are investing in a measuring technology, not in a technology that they think will solve an issue for them.
Okay, super interesting. Thank you so much for that.
Maybe could you tell us few things where you believe we could help, and I mean, you have many ecosystems involved. You mentioned transportation, transport education, health also. By the way, in Sofia, do not forget to vaccinate. I was there too. And I know that I know the very important role that you're playing, and the discussion we have with all the community, including the church. So I know everything you're doing here. But anyway, no. But it will be interesting for us and for me to hear about the very specific issue that you have, and I know that traffic, for example, is important. Also, what can we do directly to help now, because we cannot wait?
Well, we have a bit more of a general issue right now in the country, because for last year we have had very serious political turmoil. So our resilience and recovery plan that all the municipalities are counting on to get funding for the sustainable projects is not yet negotiated.
Yeah, but you will have a new prime minister soon, I understand.
Let's hope that we have a stable government coming soon. But transportation is definitely a big challenge for Sofia. We have recently implemented the smart system for our city transportation. People can now more easily work with different payment methods, and we are optimizing the pricing for the city transportation, but we are yet to put more efforts into making it greener and greener. So we are now thinking about projects, and we would really like support from experts and also funding for projects that can really make sure that people get off the cars and get into city transportation, or make the cars more sustainable. We are now considering more and more electric vehicles and self-sustainable parkings, for example. And we are looking forward hydrogen technology for the existing vehicles in the city transportation, but there is very little expertise in the country. So it's not just funding, it's the right examples and the right expertise that we can use, and every sort of help from the Commission and from our network is very welcome here.
So maybe it will be a good idea that I speak for my team, that to have a sort of a forum where we could exchange some expertise and then share with the one who will need it between all of us.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So curious and interesting to hear from Sofia what you're up to. And of course, Bulgarian politics, extremely interesting, but a discussion for another day. And on that note of expertise, we can cross over now to Jakob Bunsgaard. Jakob, thank you so much for your patience. It's lovely to bring you in now and hear your plans to be carbon neutral by 2030.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you for the opportunity to take part in this important discussion on how to push forward, both on the green transition and obviously also digitalization. It's right that the city of Aarhus set out an ambitious target in 2008. We set out a target to become CO2 neutral in 2030. We're halfway there now, but we have taken all the easy steps. We have taken all the low-hanging fruits, and now we have all the difficult things left on our plate. And basically, we need to accelerate our green transitions in the coming years. And therefore, we are reaching out into our local community in order to tap into our local businesses and tap into all the ideas and the drivers that can help us push forward on our green transition. We just had a local election here in Aarhus and in the rest of the municipalities in Denmark last month. And one of the absolute top of mind issues that have been discussed in the local elections have been the climate issues. How do we deal with the green transitions? How do we contribute with our reduction targets in terms of CO2 and all across the country, and also in my city? So there's a very strong support for the politicians to take initiatives that will deal with the green transitions. But in my opinion, it's very, very important to balance the green transition with our continued ability to provide healthcare and elder care, good kindergartens, and all the things that we also need to be able to provide as municipalities to our citizens in order to hold on to the legitimacy of the green transition and all the investments that we need to make. Locally in Aarhus, we have created a green transition fund that is helping local businesses to invest in the green transition, both in terms of their own green transition as a company, but also to help forward new products. Just a few examples. We have a local company called Pond who are experimenting with a viable alternative to petrol-based plastics. If they succeed, it will be a tremendous opportunity for them to go into the market with this technology. We are helping to push forward both in terms of planning and in terms of helping the connection between our university and our local companies. And we're also investing together with local companies in how to use new kinds of building materials. The city of Aarhus is growing at a quite rapid pace, about 1.5% a year, and that feeds a lot of need for new buildings, apartments, commercial buildings, and in order to make sure that also in this area we are addressing the green transition, we need to use new building materials that has a smaller carbon footprint than the ones that we are normally using, and we are investing in that together with local companies and the university in order to see if we can get that right and get that better. And then we have perhaps the biggest issue is transportation. About half our carbon emissions comes from transportation. And then we need also the Commission and private investors to be able to have the necessary infrastructure in terms of electrical grid and charging infrastructure in order to convert our fleet of fossil cars to electrical vehicles and other types of non-fossil fuel driven cars, and especially the heavy transportation is also a big issue. So we have so much to do, and basically we have, as a city council in Aarhus, control over about 10% of the CO2 emissions in our municipality. So the only way that we can reach our target is to reach out to local businesses. We've created a green alliance between the 20 largest companies in Denmark that have promised to take lead in different areas where they have expertise in order to push forward and take all the other local businesses on their journey towards CO2 neutrality. And we need to reach out to our citizens. And there we need to bridge a gap where we use digitalization, we use social media, we use community action in order to reduce the distance between the political decisions and the politicians and the citizens, and lower the barriers in order to have this conversation. The citizens are ready, and we need to find the right balances, but we need to do it really, really fast, and that demands investments, and that demands new ideas, and therefore I'm really, really glad to be able to participate here today, and hope that we can participate even more in the future, because we really need to share our good ideas, and our ability to scale up these ideas will be pivotal in order to meet the targets that we have set. Thank you.
Thank you. And I must say your energy is infectious. So interesting hearing what you're up to there and how the citizens are also on board. As you said there, Jacob, you're halfway there. So let's see, Commissioner Thierry Breton, how can you help him make that jump?
Well, there's many things that's very insightful. But of course, I think the grid, what has been mentioned, is really something I would like to jump in, because this will be, of course, an extremely important topic. We will need 16 million charger place on the continent to make sure that we'll be able, and we are just at the very, very, very beginning. So we know that here, definitely we'll need to find a way to support it, both with private and public funds. So this is something we need to work immediately, because This is the key. So that's what there's many things. And by the way, we all know that Denmark is willing to have a quick transition towards zero CO2. There is a lot of windmill and everything. So could you imagine that if it is difficult in Denmark, what will be in Sofia? I mean, so that's why that this is really something that we need to tackle at the level of the whole continent. So that's what I want. I don't want to take too long, but I took a lot of notes. Thank you very much.
Great. Very briefly, and then I'm going to ask if there's anyone in the room or online who'd like to make a comment or bring in. Yeah. Yeah, go for it. Just briefly, because we're
briefly, two comments because I didn't make it on the enacting statement. We're facing a big challenge and a series of quite big problems. There is a temptation to the cities because this is it needs less time, less resources, less money. Converting the cities to exhibition centers. This means that we have misused the word smart or intelligent, and we are transforming the cities to exhibition centers. We don't make grand-scale applications. And why we don't do this? Because there are not funds for grand-scale applications. So the request here is the magic word you said before, bottoms up. The cities to talk to the funding system, the European system, what are their necessities in order not to proceed with pilot projects, but to proceed with grand-scale, massive projects which will make the change. And then, of course, less legislation, less constraints, and less time-consuming processes. This is something that is eating the bureaucracy and the delays, the legislative delays, are creating a big, huge burden whenever you think about European funding. And I think, Commissioner Breton, those are some things that should be tackled by the European Union as quick as possible. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to bring in Delphine Jamet there, Deputy Mayor of Bordeaux, for her perspective. Thank you so much.
Donc, je suis adjointe au maire de Bordeaux.
Yes, I'm from Bordeaux. I deal with data strategy and the digital transition. So thank you very much indeed for inviting me. It is a huge honour to be invited. I think the discussions were very good, and you talked about needing a shopping list. I have made a shopping list. There was something that was said by everybody, I think, who commented here, is that towns and cities are central to these issues and closest to our citizens as well. And we're excluding people from the digital transition. It's cumbersome, it's not easy to use, and we're excluding people. We need resources in investment. We need the European Union to help us with digital inclusion. That's fundamental because, unfortunately, we're creating a generation of children who don't understand digitalization. They are able to use social networks, TikTok and Instagram, but they don't know how to interact with a digital interface. And also older people. 2050 you talked about. I'm 46 now, so I'd be about 70 by then, and I do use digital services. I'm able to use them, but a lot of people don't. So I think that now is the time to reach out to those people so that they don't become ever more excluded in the future. European programs should be about digital inclusion. In Bordeaux, we're setting up an observatory looking at the digital divide. Because if you look at what's happening across the whole of France, okay, you've got a macro overview, but it's more complicated at a local level. And I think the European Union could support us in this so that we can target this problem and help people directly, help people through investment, use the same indicators so that we can actually compare with each other, so that we can see where we need to concentrate our efforts so that our policy has the best impact possible and the most impact possible. it's true that sometimes we don't actually tap into the resources that are available in the European Union because it's very complicated to do so. Bordeaux, of course, is a big city, a lot of resources. We have people whose job it is to find European subsidies and get European subsidies, but that's not the case throughout the European Union. And rather than having just projects, we need the most impactful projects. We don't need innovation projects as such. We know what works, but we need the means to scale them up and make sure that they have the largest and widest impact possible. And on standards, I think that the European Union has an enormous role to play there in making the digital world much more responsible.
Making a very important point about digital inclusion. Thank you so much for bringing that to the discussion. I know Commissioner Breton.
Yes, maybe if you allow me one word on this to answer, and maybe I will do it in French. I don't know.
With pleasure. This is Europe.
In Sofia, you speak French, I know. Yes, too. Okay. Okay, very good. No, but maybe I will do it in French because, of course, I think you have the headsets. Alors, d'abord,
Well, first of all, the digital transition, that's really at the heart of the transformation that I'm in charge of. And so you're right. It's not just about 2050. We've got a 10-year horizon. That's why we're calling it the digital decade. We have some very ambitious goals. But then, well, we did that before member states would come to us with projects which support the next generation EU, which is 750 million euros. A minimum of 37% of the projects should be dedicated to the green transition, and 20% would be dedicated, well, we weren't there at the beginning. That's just a secret. But that number went up. I talked to my friend Franz Timmermans. At the end of the day, we got to 20%, even though 30% was what the member states were reaching. So, that was the inclusive approach, and which brings us pretty much to the same level. And that's good because we had the KPIs, the key performance indicators. And in those KPIs, that covered the issues that you mentioned, not leaving anyone behind. We don't want any child to be a digital illiterate. That's what we're aiming for. And we had the digital hubs set up with structures that will allow us to provide the education on the ground. We have structures for SMEs and that links into what you were saying as well. Obviously for cities, for villages, towns, it's not just for large cities. So we do see that divide. And, when you look at small cities and small municipalities, we realize that maybe we need to do more for them. And so that means providing the funds to do that. And we want 100% of all transactions, government transactions, to be done online at the latest by 2030. So that would cover the entire continent. When I was finance minister, we were talking about tax at source, but, and some people said it was impossible, but we were able to do it. There were some other taxes that people felt were impossible to impose, but we were able to do that. And so I think we can reach this objective as well. And I would like to thank those of you who have made the effort to come and be with us this afternoon, offline, online, here in the room. We really need to have this exchange. Now, there are structures for municipalities. There was the president of regions who's also also here. Regions are also involved here. So we need to have this type of interaction. It's very important. You shouldn't hesitate to contact us. We're very open. We're not. It's just a one-on-one conversation. So we have a very open style. Please don't hesitate to knock on our door. And another thing I would like to say, in the recovery plan, and it's a lot of money that is going to arrive in Bulgaria, in Greece, in Italy, in Spain, Denmark, France. It's a lot of money. Member states have committed already, and they have certain budget envelopes. And in your reports that you have drawn up with your governments, you've set up envelopes, and you need to come and get that because we're going to verify that what has been said will be done. And so we need to make sure that there are no more digital illiterates. We need to make sure that transactions will happen online. So, you've got the stakeholders on either side, and you've got the money in the middle. And so we have the same objectives, we have the means, and we need to bring all of this together in this project. And so we need that you challenge yourselves. I was a Minister of Finance, so, obviously it all involves challenging yourself. We've got these envelopes, and then you've got to say, well, we've got this project, finance it. And so that's how we can find solutions. Thank you.
I just want to head just briefly back to Barcelona before we move on to our next round, to Laia Bonet, who really tried hard today to be with us physically today, but couldn't. The floor is yours, Laia.
Thank you. I really wanted to respond to the invitation the Commissioner made to us to be specific about the role the Commission can play in supporting cities. And I think that it's not easy to address the role of the Commission without talking about funding. And the Commission did. Because it is not funding per se what matters. It is not the money for its own sake. It's about what we are able to do with that money that we couldn't do otherwise. So it is fundamentally about innovation, about testing new solutions. That is difficult to do for local governments. We are mostly responding to multiplying needs in our cities, and we are often underfunded. So yes, money matters. But if we talk about innovation, the Commission does not only have a role to play when it comes to funding pilot programs and solutions, but also in scaling them up. What we see too often is that we are given funding to test a policy for 2 or 3 years. And when we get the results, then it's done. It doesn't matter whether the pilot was successful or not, whether it was effective or not. It's just gone. I think the Commission has a role to play here in disseminating these results and in using the result of these programs you find and go to cities with similar challenges and say, look, this solution worked there. We are going to help you develop a similar one.
Okay.
And then, of course, there is the question of regulation. I think that too often people in Brussels forget that they don't actually deliver public services. That is, as cities and our public services who are on the front lines. And many of the regulations that you are preparing in Brussels very much depend on how things are done in cities.
Okay, Laia,
and yet too often, I'm finishing.
Yeah.
Just to finish, too often we are not included in the policy design process. In fact, we are only consulted at the very end of our general issues. So I know that it's not easy and that the EU policy process is already very complex, but I can assure that including cities in it from the very beginning will result in more effective regulation. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And Commissioner Breton is taking notes as you speak there, so thank you very much. You've made all your points. And thank you so much for joining us virtually from Barcelona. Thank you so much to Jacob as well, joining us then from Oris.
We are not coordinated in to say the same things. With
No,
Rania,
you're not, but you're all very much on a
We said the same things,
par.
but we haven't talked so far.
Well, thank you so much to our two gentlemen as well who've come to Brussels to be with us for this event. Thank you so much. It was lovely to hear from you.
Thank you all. Thank you for this first panel. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for your service for our fellow citizens and for your city.
Yes,
Thanks
as you
a lot.
said, it's a challenging job, but also a very rewarding job, being mayor.
The best.
But don't go anywhere, because now, in a couple of minutes, we will be talking about the role of data in building smart cities. But first, we can take a look at this video message by Pavi Lajala, the mayor of Oulu. Oulu, a founding city of the Living-in-EU. The city of Oulu, back during the Finnish presidency, and Porto were in fact instrumental in the establishment of Living-in-EU back in December 2019. Enjoy the video.
Oulu oli ensimmäinen allekirjoittaja Join, Boost, Sustain-deklaraatiossa. Allekirjoitus tapahtui Suomen EU-puheenjohtajakauden aikana Oulussa järjestetyssä kansainvälisessä seminaarissa, joka kokosi asiantuntijoita, julkisen sektorin edustajia ja yrityksiä ympäri Euroopan pohtimaan yhdessä, mitä tarkoittaa eurooppalainen digitaalinen siirtymä, missä vaiheessa olemme nyt ja mitä kohti haluamme kulkea. Olemme halukkaita jakamaan kaikkea oppimaamme koko Euroopan kesken. Näen, että aktiivinen, avoin ja kaikkia osapuolia hyödyntävä yhteistyö on ainoa oikea tapa toteuttaa reilu ja tuloksekas digitaalinen siirtymä. Yksi EUn tärkeimmistä arvoista on tasa-arvo. Maan osassamme on paljon vaurautta, mutta myös kehittyviä alueita. Digitaalisen siirtymän tulee koskea kaikkia maan osamme kansalaisia, ja tätä kehitystä myös Oulu haluaa olla aktiivisesti tukemassa. Yksi hyvä työkalu on tähän Eurocities-verkosto. Euroopan tulee entisestään tiivistää yhteistyötään digitaalisen siirtymän alueella. Kilpailu on kovaa ja esimerkiksi Yhdysvalloissa ja Kiinassa digitalisaatioon panostetaan valtavia summia rahaa. Oulun 6G Flagship-tutkimusohjelma herättää kiinnostusta ympäri maailman, myös edellä mainituissa maissa. Samalla olemme huolestuneita resursseista, joita huippututkimukseen Euroopassa käytetään. Meidän tulee huolehtia siitä, että pysymme valituilla alueilla maailman kärjessä. Euroopan kilpailuetu syntyy siitä, että saamme kaikki eurooppalaiset mukaan hyötymään digitaalisesta siirtymästä kasvavana elinvoimana ja hyvinvointina. Jos kykenemme skaalaamaan parhaat käytännöt Lapista Välimerelle ja Atlantin rannalta Balkanille, me pärjäämme kyllä. Se vaatii aitoa halua ja jakaa tietoa, kokemuksia ja parhaita käytäntöjä. Se vaatii myös rahoitusta digitaaliseen siirtymään sen kaikilla tasoilla. Perustutkimuksesta huippututkimukseen, kaupunkivetoiseen testaamiseen ja koeponnistamiseen ja tietenkin jalkauttamiseen käytännön palveluiksi ja palvelualustoiksi. Se vaatii rahoitusta myös digitaalisen infrastruktuurin rakentamiseksi. Toivon, että viette näitä teemoja tänään eteenpäin. Oulu on tänään Brysselissä koolla olevan yhteisön ylpeä jäsen. I wish you all a great evening in Brussels. All the best from Oulu, the light of the north.
The light of the north. So lovely there to hear from Oulu and how it became so digital. Thank you so much to Oulu and the Mayor for that beautiful message and for joining us this afternoon. So now it's time to move on and zoom in on the role of data in building smart cities. And for this panel, I'm delighted to extend a welcome to Miss Amel Zanati, Councillor of Grenoble. Welcome to you. Good to see you. And also to Mohamed Roudani, the Mayor of Leuven, who's come just a couple of kilometres down here to us in Brussels. So thank you so much. Lovely to see you. And joining us virtually today, we can say hello to the Mayor of Helsinki. That's Johanna Vartanen. Good afternoon to you. Lovely to see you. And Miss Kata Tuto, she's the Deputy Mayor of Budapest. Hello to you. And also Carmen Caballera, the Vice President of the region of Alentejo. Lovely to see you there too. So let's kick off perhaps, Amel, with you and ask you how you've been tapping in to the digital sphere to make your city greener and more sustainable.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much.
Microphone, please. There's no microphone for the speaker.
Team and the staff. Sorry, thank you very much. I said thank you to the staff for the invitation. I switch in French if it's possible. Donc bonjour à toutes.
So good afternoon to each and every one of you. Apologies from the Mayor of Grenoble. I'm here representing him. I'm very pleased to be able to represent the region of Grenoble here today. Grenoble is the green capital for 2022, and we would invite all of you to come and visit us in Grenoble at any time during the year of 2022 to be involved in this whole event, which highlights what the city and the whole region is doing for the environment and to combat climate change. To answer your specific questions, though, Grenoble and the whole region is committed to digitalization. A lot of resources have been allocated to do this. From 2014 in Grenoble, there were two subjects that dominated our public policy. Free software, deployment of free software. Sovereignty is the important issue. Digital sovereignty is very important as far as we're concerned. Protection of personal data. And I think that we can be proud that in Europe we have clear legislation that protects personal data. I think that that is a very important point for Europe. And then the second central issue of our public policy was data openness, opening up public data. We did this in two ways. Firstly, the publishing of public documents, or the digital opening of public documents. In Grenoble, we set up the necessary tools to ensure that all documents are accessible and that all citizens can therefore consult these documents and understand, therefore, what is happening in their region and in their municipalities and all of the political decisions that have been taken. And then we also set up a website, a platform really, an open data platform. And on this open data platform, Grenoble, the city of Grenoble, its social action centre and the urban area meant that raw data, so raw data is unformatted data, of course, that need to be further processed. It needs to be processed, of course, to remove any personal data from this raw data. So these are the two major areas that we've been working on, just very briefly. And on free and open sources software, 100% for primary schools in Grenoble, and within the administration as well. We've started using free bureaucracy, using other software that is all used within the municipality. Another important thing is a study that we've launched about being open to using other IT systems. The equivalent of Windows, for example, Linux, which means that we will achieve digital sovereignty in our region. Because in tackling the whole issue of sovereignty, if you can have digital sovereignty, then it means that you can configure and use the material that you have and use it, not having to upgrade your material constantly and follow that treadmill, which actually increases our digital footprint on the environment. We also, of course, wanted our citizens to be involved through digital platforms for volunteers, for people who want to show solidarity, or there's Jeune d'Arche Grenoble for young people, which meant that our citizens could, during the lockdown, during COVID, they were able to communicate with each other so that we were able to continue this volunteering and solidarity was shown through this platform.
About the importance of this, listening to the citizens, what they want, and making sure they feel engaged. Thank you so much for those opening comments. And you mentioned, of course, the famous words digital sovereignty, something you hear in the College of the Commissioners a lot. It's a topic your colleague, Commissioner Versteyer, is working on a lot, the Executive Vice President, but we'll come back to that later. And now move on and hear what Leuven has been up to.
Good afternoon to all of you, and congratulations with the organization of this very important event and to giving a voice to cities and mayors, which is very important. So I'm the mayor of the city of Leuven. Leuven is a city which is probably the closest to the heart of Brussels, of Europe, because it's only 30 kilometers from here in the north part of the country. In fact, we are a rich city in things that we have a very big brewery, Stella Artois.
Very important.
And we have a very big university, the KU Leuven, so that's the best of all the worlds. In fact, we have a huge, for a compact city, we have a huge concentration of brain power. If you look at our demography, 1 out of 3 inhabitants is either a student or a researcher. And it has an impact also on how the city, of course, is organized and what the vision of the city is. So we want to be really one of those sustainable, high quality of living cities in Europe, and our inhabitants demand that. One of the main programs that we have, and which is relevant today, is Leuven 2030. It is a kind of governance model where, on a very systematic way, the city council, the city, is collaborating intensely with university knowledge institutions like IMEC, which we have at Nanotechnology Center, with our companies, startups, with NGOs, citizens, bright people. And in fact, the City Council gave away powers around sustainability and climate policy and innovation to that NGO organization. And in there, we have a shared decision-making process with clear rules of play. So everyone can become a member, can come into the board of directors, but to be there and to avoid greenwashing, you need binding action plan, etc. This makes that the journey of making our city climate neutral, which is very complex, very high demanding, is a common ambition of the entire Leuven community. And over the years, we've done so much. We've totally changed the way our traffic is organized. If you come to Leuven, you will see that you don't have to watch out for cars, you have to watch out for bicycles. We are the #1 bicycle city of Belgium. It exploded since we've changed our mobility plans. We invest heavily in renewables, waste management, water, etc. And when it comes to data, I have to underline what the colleague has said. We invest in numerous projects like the one that you mentioned, Commissioner, the twinning project, where you digitalize your entire city, in fact, so that you can digitally test certain implementations on traffic. What does it cause in terms of safety, in terms of noise effects, in terms of emissions? So all that can be done digitally. We collect a lot of data from our citizens, and they're very willing to do it as well. One of the things, interesting projects is We Count, where citizens, through a technology developed by one of the startup spin-offs of the university, they attach the instrument to their window, and it counts traffic, it counts the kind of vehicles that pass through their window. This data is collected within the city. So we know that when we implement mobility plans, what effect does it have? And we know where we do need to increase certain things. So to wrap up, the objective that we have in many ways, the larger ones, we collaborate in a structural way. We measure a lot. We don't want to operate in a dark room. We measure a lot. But the things that we face is that, Mr. Commissioner, let's avoid vendor lock-in so that you can transfer one application to another. Open source as much as we can. Most of the software that we use is open source. So there's so many bright people in Europe. Let them, over the countries, develop together software and let's share it. I think that's one of the big assets that we could have. And 3, cybersecurity. I think there as well we have still a lot to do. Thank you.
No, that's very enlightening, and thank you very much. By the way, both the cities that you represent and lead are at the heart of what we do at best in Europe in terms of semiconductors. You mentioned IMEC. IMEC, at least, so I will not have anybody jealous, in the FinFET technologies is a world leader. And Grenoble is not too bad with Leti in the FDSOI technology. So that means you have both technologies which are competing, or let's say complementaries, but very, very strong in semiconductors for both of you. It's not by hazard that you are extremely knowledgeable, obviously, both of you. Okay, but I was speaking of research centers, R&D centers. When we speak about IMEC, it's probably the best in the world today in R&D for FinFET technologies. But this being said, and of course, the whole ecosystem is changing in both of your cities. But this being said, of course, I think you mentioned things extremely important. I mean, in the cities, you will generate huge amount of data. And of course, you mentioned it. I mean, the population is willing to share this data, I agree. So we need, of course, to organize a little bit. This is what we are putting now in the Data Act. And we are just finalizing this to accelerate this process, making sure that how you could make sure that you can use this data easily, share the data, be able also to not to be, let's say, hooked by a supplier or whatever. So this will be a world premiere. And by the way, if you have any request for all of you, it is a time where we are now in the process to finalize it. I believe we did it on a very comprehensive way, but any request is now for you because you will have to use this data to provide new services, additional services for your citizens. The second point, and so I'm 100% with you. Open, sharing, but safe. Because of course, a lot of services that you will offer to your fellow citizens and to the population will have to be 100% secure, zero default. And this is where you spoke, and rightly, on cybersecurity, which is a big topic that we are also working on with my team. In other words, in a smart city, because at the end of the day, this is what we are talking about, every single corner of the city is part of the surface of what we call the surface of attack, surface attack, when we speak cyber. In other words, it's not only concentrated in the city hall or in the university however, it is everywhere. So this is exactly on this holistic environment that we are working with my team at DG Connect to help you on this and to make sure that we will provide the right tools, maybe models, to make sure that you will be able to develop the right services. So in other words, data generation, data sharing, open, and protected. We took the 4 points, and we're working on it already, but any insight will be helpful. Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner. And on that note of data generation and data sharing, we can head over now to Helsinki to bring in the Mayor of Helsinki, who's waiting.
And we didn't speak about artificial intelligence, but yet. But
That's another.
But this is behind, of course, because with the data, you create algorithm, you train the algorithm on machine learning, and then you generate the services, which will be smart services.
Absolutely. Well, let's bring in now Johanna Vertainen, the Mayor of Helsinki, and hear from him. A city's been a role model in this field, right?
Another smart city, another very smart city.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je ne sais pas si on est tellement smart.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure if we're very smart, but for 4 months I've been saying that we're still in a learning period. For about 5 years now, our city has taken on some very important investments in the digital economy. I think that in 2 years, we'll be much better informed in this area. Like you said, Commissioner, the years that have just passed are ones where we have been very concerned about the pandemic and dealing with that. But on the other hand, it's also clear that the pandemic has taught us some very valuable lessons that we can use after the pandemic. For example, how to communicate with our citizens, how to organize education remotely for children, how to deal with vaccination data, and so forth. We're very, very pleased with the initiative that you have brought forth on digitalization. Digitalization is and will be very, very important and useful, and so I'm very pleased to be able to participate.
I made some notes in English too on what we have been doing. A couple of examples of what we are aiming at with our digital technologies. One sort of frontline reform initiative is to try to build proactive services for citizens. This might sound a little bit strange or threatening, but we want to look at services which our citizens will need, even though perhaps they, each and every one of them does not yet know that she or he will be in need of this or that services. For example, in health primarily. So we will look at broader groups of people, and without infringing on their data privacy, we will try to proactively guide them and help them to services, knowledge and facilities that they are likely to need. That's one way of going forward. Then another, which is very straightforward, but which I find very important as an economist, which I am by formation, is to use automatic generation of data on our own productivity. So we want to report on our web pages and elsewhere our various productivity measures, for example, waiting times for getting to see a doctor, or waiting times for obtaining a construction permit, or other such processes. I would so very much like our citizens to challenge our administration for improving our productivity and thereby giving a better deal for our citizens. But then, as said, we are just in the phase of taking or advancing and developing rather general technologies that can then be used for many other reforms and improvements as well. For example, we already suffer from a shortage of skills and manpower in daycare services, and the digital management of personnel in our different units will certainly be an interesting topic for the years to come. Another area where a digital management of resources will probably be important is the rational use of space. I mean, our cubic feet in our various real estate buildings and other real estate assets. To what uses can we put our buildings and residential constructions so that we get the most out of it, out of all that set, all those constructions and other systems that we currently dispose of. So, and of course, it could be interesting and easy to give other examples too. For example, we have a development company that is looking into digital technologies and automatic vehicles, small buses, perhaps in the city center, where traditional larger buses have not enough room to maneuver. Perhaps in the future, in the coming decades, there will be a fleet of smaller vehicles destined for public transport, for example, instead of what we currently have. But as said, I'm only learning all this myself, so perhaps let me stop here and after these small samples of what we currently are up to. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. Thank you so much for speaking to us today in French and English. Excellent. And now let's get the perspective from Budapest and bring in the Deputy Mayor of Budapest, Kata Tuto, to see what you're up to in your city and, of course, what asks you have from Commissioner Thierry Breton, who's here this afternoon to listen to you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's great to be here in this panel. I'll try to stick to what I was asked. So first, I'll provide something that we haven't talked about today. So when it comes to green, I will actually give an example from something that's really green. It's trees, urban trees. What we're doing now is that we're doing a mapping of urban environment, mapping of trees with a digital tool. We have this Google car and we have a three-dimensional map of the trees. And what we do is that we use artificial intelligence to actually help us to identify these trees, like what species this tree belongs to, and about the health of this tree. And what we have a new viewpoint of looking at urban tree is what is the value of a tree. Usually cities calculate the value of a tree of how much does it cost to grow up a tree. What we do is a tree, how much good does it give to the citizens? So what we do is we calculate with the AI and with this mapping system, how much shade does that tree gives in an urban space, and we know about the heat condition of that urban space. We calculate how much CO2 it captures. We calculate how much dust can it bind, and we calculate how much vaporization does it do. And it will give an absolutely different point of view how we look at urban trees. When we look at where to plant a tree, we will look at the heat maps. Where are these trees missing? And this will give an absolutely new view, and we would love to share these examples over. We are working now on it, and I hope that we will have good data and make good policies. But on the other, I have other hats here. I'm also a member of the European Committee of the Regions. And when we talk about data and collecting data, we didn't really talk about collecting sex disaggregated data. We didn't really talk about gender gap. I'm working on an opinion on gender and the Green Deal being gender blind, and why is it a problem? So we are preparing to transform our societies. We are preparing to transform our cities completely with the Recovery and Resilience Facility. but we are without actually knowing how will this affect men and women in our cities. We know a lot about existing inequalities in using public spaces, in mobility, in energy poverty. So what we usually mainstream is that, yes, collect data, but please collect data on men and women, how they are using their cities and what different needs do they have to have better policies. We talk a lot about new green jobs in digitalization, and we see a huge gender gap in there. So it's important to look at that. It's not a city level thing, but gender budgeting is. And when it comes to stereotypes, it's also a thing to look at. And of course, about Hungary a little bit, the recovery and resiliency facility you were mentioning, Budapest and all of the big cities were completely left out in planning of the recovery and resiliency plan of Hungary. So our ambitions and our plans and our solutions are completely missing. So just for the first round, thank you for the floor.
Thank you for your intervention there and for bringing and making some very important points. And the Commissioner might like to make a point as well about the city's mission that was launched just last week, which is helping, the Commission is helping 100 cities to be climate neutral by 2030. But we can talk about that in just a minute and now bring in Carmen Caballera, the Vice President of the region of Alentejo. She's been waiting there patiently, so good to see you there, Carmen. Thank you so much, and tell us what your city has been up to reach these goals.
Hello, I'm starting in English just to say hello, to do the congratulations for this event and to say that I'm so thankful and honored to be here. Now I'm passing to Portuguese to make sure I'm not losing anything. Alentejo, a city. No, so, sorry, Portuguese. Alentejo não é.
So just to say then that Alentejo is not a city as such. Alentejo covers a third of the surface area of Portugal. It is very varied in its landscape. It's a third of the country after all. So when it comes to managing the Alentejo region, we have to deal with a lot of different issues. It's very diverse indeed. So the digital transition is a challenge for the whole region. We want, obviously, a greener region and a more digital region. It's an enormous challenge for us. On the digital transition in particular, we have a very elderly population, and we feel therefore that it's very important that we include everybody, every age, from the youngest. They should be able to program computers, right up to the oldest people in our population. They should be able to use these new technologies, all of them. Obviously, the pandemic caused a lot of harm and bad things, but it did make it clear to us that if we can use new technologies, then we remain included and we're not excluded. That's how we can be here together today and all talk about the challenges that we share, thanks to technology, of course. But in order to achieve this, we have to ensure that we have good internet coverage across the whole region. There's a low population density in Alentejo, and so people are spread out a lot. And none of our towns and cities are even big cities. They're medium-sized cities and towns. And we need to promote smart city policies, but obviously spread that out to a smart region, a smart community. And Alentejo is was a leader in a program, a Horizon 2020 program, to create smart communities. healthcare, distance provision of healthcare, tourism, and how we can actually benefit from tourism, because obviously that's very useful in digital transition as well. And obviously data is all important, i.e. how do we collect data? How do we create data platforms over the different areas and use them properly so that we have good information, reliable information about the whole of the region, what makes up the regions, how are the different areas interlinked, what's the infrastructure? Obviously, mobility is a fundamental importance in Alentejo as well, which is why the regional authority has a platform, which is a mobility platform, so that we can give people an overview of all of the modes of transport that are available in the region. This platform is still in its initial phase, and it's on-demand transport, mainly for taxi services at present. It's the only option, really, for these kind of low population density regions. It's the way of providing mobility to as many people as possible, independently of where they live and what their means are. That's what we're trying to do. And we've just launching this platform, and we want to involve and include electric vehicles. We're going to map the carbon emissions from this mobility, but also the kind of economic savings that we could make if we were to use electric vehicles. Obviously, hydrogen power is an important issue. Obviously, it's very important to get a lot of data about this, about the kind of money that can be saved and how these services are then used and how traditional fuel is used and how that compares to electric vehicles and the use of electric vehicles, or indeed hydrogen-powered vehicles in the future, so that we can compare accurately and see where the trends are and where we should develop. We also have another major challenge that we face relating to adapting to climate change. We probably have the least amount of water, and water provision, water supply is very important and has to be included across all of our policies. We have a circular economy task force, which is linked to national policies in this area as well. We're also linked to various fora that deal with the Mediterranean diet.
More points probably to make, but I'd just like to...
finishing.
You were just finishing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were finishing obviously on a very important point there regarding climate change. If you'd just like to make that point, and then I'd like to bring in the Commissioner, because of course he's here to have a Q&A with, a two-way with you.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have these projects. We identify best practice and we want then to disseminate those across the whole of the region. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Much. Great, really interesting to hear what you're up to and of course what the challenges that your region is facing. You mentioned the elderly population, so I'd like perhaps to ask Thierry Breton about that. How do you bring them along, those who perhaps don't have a smartphone, don't have access to internet and don't know how to use it if they do?
Well, it is really a very important question, and it's important, by the way, to have also the regional dimension too, because everything is interlinked, of course. And we spoke, and you know that very well that in your city, of course, you play a big role, but you have to, especially when we speak about greenery, greening the city, and of course taking into the digital, everything has to be considered a bit broader than you maybe used to do, or your predecessors in the past. So I think it's very important to have the two aspects. But of course, you're absolutely right. Now we need to make sure, and it is again in the digital decade, that everyone will have access and a fair access, and that's extremely important. Whoever you are, whatever is your condition, we need to make sure, and this is deeply embedded into our policies. But let me come back, if you allow me, of the mayor of Helsinki, the deputy mayor of Budapest, Buda and Pest. I love the two sides. I don't want to make anybody jealous. And also Carmen with what she said about the region. Alentero. And by the way, Carmen, you have a very good commissioner, Elisa Ferreira. She's a friend of mine, and she's very good, and she's here also to help you. And I know that not only in Portugal, for everyone, she's for like all of us. She's for everybody, but she's extremely close to what you are doing and what we are talking. Also, we are working hand in hand with the structural fund that she's managing. But in a nutshell, for what has been said in this second roundtable, I would like to make a few comments, if you allow me. First, about the mayor of Helsinki. I don't speak as good as Finnish as you speak French, so I think I will just call him Johanna, because je ne vais pas m'aventurer sur le nom de famille. C'est plus compliqué à prononcer.
I won't dare the last name. It's a bit too complicated.
Okay, such initiative to collect data on productivity or skills shortage is definitely one of the things that could be very interesting for us to consider upfront. So this is interesting for us. So if you have any of these things now, it is extremely important that we are informed, because we need to understand this, including in our supply chains that we are working on at a broader level. Johanna spoke about the skills and manpower, and is absolutely right. We know that it will be a bottleneck here. Not only we need to have the right skills, we need also to be competitive. And this is something that we need to monitor extremely carefully. So that's. But it was very interesting to have this is feedback because of course we need to be able to use any early warnings. We know that this will be an extremely important this decade that we have ahead of us, and that's again. And to tell you the truth, of course, I'm a commissioner till end of 2024, so use me. Of course, my successor will be much better than me, of course, but still use me now. And we are writing now the policies, because the digital decade, when I will left my mandate, it will be already halfway. So we don't have 1 second to lose. And it's not in my intention, neither my habit for the one who know me a little bit. So let's move fast, be informed, and let's work together. Very interesting with Kata. Yeah, that's fine if I call you Kata. But Tuto is not too difficult. But I heard loud and clear everything you said, including your last statement, but I will not comment. But I just want to focus on what you said on tree and greeneries. I think it was extremely interesting. I mean, greening of cities is absolutely essential, and I love what you said, the way you mentioned it. It was extremely important to protect against climate change effect, or including also, of course, heat waves. So I think you put it exactly the right way. By the way, for all of you, the 100 climate neutral cities just started now, so it's the time to apply for all of you. The 100 climate neutral cities is a good, it's not competition, but I will say a good way to explain what you do and to be part of it. So I hope that you will candidate for every single of you, and I think it's a very important initiative here. And then of course, Carmen, I fully agree with what you said, including taking into account the diversity of the community you have in mind. Also the fact that you have to cope with small cities, with also suburbs, with also regions where you have also you're suffering for access of connectivity. By the way, we have also another project that I'm pushing extremely hard, which will be important. Of course, we have for connectivity in cities. You have the density, which is okay, and you have not too much problem of connectivity. But as soon as you go a little bit outside, it's a different story. So this is why also we have a big project of connectivity per satellite that we want to be able to offer everywhere in Europe, in addition to what we do on the ground. And I'm pushing extremely hard. I hope that you will support my initiative because I think it's extremely important not only to have the access everywhere, but also, and I'm speaking to the mayor of Leuven. I have the feeling that you're an engineer. Maybe I'm wrong, but the economist, not too far. It's already good, huh? It's already very good. But including with the satellite connectivity that we want to put in place, we want, of course, to offer something related to what you said about cyber, using quantum technologies to have secured encryptions everywhere, including, by the way, services, 5G and 6G services, which will be extremely important also for the cities. So we have also all these initiatives together. I think that it's already, unfortunately, we love to spend all the afternoon. Huh?
We're running out of time, but it's fascinating conversation.
I think it was extremely enlightening. In a nutshell, first I would like to thank you, all of you, to take the time. And I know that you have some huge responsibilities, so to make the effort to come. Bon, pour Leuven, c'est pas trop gros effort.
Well, Leuven, that wasn't too big of an effort. It was okay.
30 kilomètres. It's
30 kilometers.
It's not bad. For some others, a little bit more complex to come. So thank you very much to come here. I really appreciate. Thank you very much also for all of you on video. My simple message is keep contact with us. We are at your disposal, and it is the time. Any ideas, any initiative that you have, any demand, it is the time. We are putting everything together, and I know that at the end of the day, we will win this digital transition and green transition only with you. You are, once again, in the front line. So we know that, and we are here to help. So thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Commissioner Thierry Breton, for being us for this very interactive panel. I just want to apologise because I know all of you wanted to say more, but there just wasn't enough time. I think we might have had some questions online as well from Rian van Dam, the Mayor of Holland-Kroon. But I'm afraid we're out of time. But thank you so much to Commissioner Thierry Breton. Thank you so much to Amel Zanati, their Councillor of Grenoble, for joining us here today in person. To Mohamed Rudani, the Mayor of Leuven, for joining us. Of course, thanks to Finland, to the Mayor Johanna Vertainen, to Kata Tuto, Deputy Mayor of Budapest. Thanks to Carmen Cavallera, the Vice President of the region of Alentejo. Thank you so much to everyone who made this event a reality. Thanks also to the technical staff. And thank you all to you. You've been a fantastic audience. Take care, stay safe, and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you all. Merci à tous. Thank you. Bye-bye.